anybody mention it this morning, and I'll only mention it not because we need your money, but because I forget sometimes myself. But there's the money box, in case you got money this morning you want to put in there. Tithes and offerings. Wow, we got the front row filled up today. It was always almost empty. Glad to hear it. All right, so here we are today. Please remember our usual speaker, my father. He stood right here with his eyes closed almost all through Sunday school. He blurted out all the time, so he was awake, but he finally, at the end of Sunday school, he said, "I'm so cold, I'm just shivering." He said, I gotta go warm up. I'm up here sweating. Dog in the China restaurant. Anyway, so he went to bed. Enough of that silliness. We're going to look at Proverbs this week. Now, I did not prepare anything, so what you're getting is what we call leftovers. Okay? We're going to look at Proverbs chapter 1. I started Proverbs again this month because it's the first of the year. Came down to the first day of the month. And in case you don't read Proverbs, it's a good thing to read every day. We've got 31 Proverbs. Every month has 31 at the most days. So, February, 28 days. By golly, you get to read 3 extra Proverbs that day. So, anyway, it's good to read. It's good for daily things to learn. I mentioned this morning, we go through the Bible over the course of 3 years in our Sunday school program. And all of that's good and all. We gotta stay sharp. We gotta remember things. So something as simple as basic math skills. If every time you come up to needing to do a math problem, you watch a calculator or your phone, you punch in the numbers, you lose basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and pretty soon you can't do those without your calculator. So we gotta continually practice those things, use them. And if you're not using math every day, start. If you're not reading your Bible every day, start. And something as simple as the Proverbs will help keep us in tune with God, His instruction, the things of wisdom. Those things are good for us to learn. So, I want to look at Proverbs chapter 1 because this is a good description of wisdom, and it's a good introduction to the book, if you will. But it gives us good reasons for learning wisdom and learning things and applying those things to our life. So we're going to start, and I'm going to break this in about 3 major chunks, but smaller chunks along the way. So let's start off in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. And good chance we're going to get out of here early, but we'll see what happens, all right? So Proverbs chapter 1 says, "The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings." All right, I'm going to break there and deal with this first. Of course, the author is Solomon. We consider him the wisest man that ever lived. I've often called him the most foolish man that ever lived. We can see in the book of Ecclesiastes that he spent his life doing the dumbest things possible. And we don't have to do those dumb things because he did them for us, and we can look at the results of those dumb things that he did. But the book of Proverbs we see is devoted to wisdom and those things of smarts. And that's what we're looking at today in this book. So verse 2, he tells us the reason for this book: to know wisdom and instruction. The word wisdom here is dealing specifically with skills of understanding, skills of worldly skills, like a trade, okay? So I'm a locksmith, all right? That's my wisdom. If you got a plumber, they know how to plumb, okay? They're good at their job, and they practice and they learn and they get those things through education, through understanding, through practice, okay? That's the kind of wisdom we're dealing with here. So to know wisdom and instruction, and then also to perceive the words of understanding. To perceive the words of understanding. This is a little more, this is to be able to discern. Okay, that gives us perceive, also means to discern. That means to be able to put these things into practice and make practical use of those things that we know. Wisdom, okay? That is living life practically, being able to function in this world proficiently, okay? So, we want to be able to perceive these words of understanding or put them to use, to good use. If we learn all the things of the world, if we learn how to do our job, but we never actually put it in practice, it's interesting, it's kind of cool, it might be neat. Some people are great, they know all kinds of trivia, but they never actually live their life. They never actually do anything. All that knowledge is wasted, okay? We don't want to waste our knowledge. We want to put it to good work. We want to take the wisdom that we've learned, those things, the practical things of life, we want to apply them to our lives and use them and do good with them. If we never apply those things to our life, they're absolutely wasted, okay? That's not what we want to do. We want to take those words, and so he says to perceive the words of understanding. That means put it to work, use it, okay? We've got this wisdom, let's put it to work, let's use it for our lives. Make our lives better. Not just our lives, but others as well. Then verse 3 says to receive the instruction of wisdom. Now this wisdom is completely different than the other one, okay? The first wisdom is a physical skill in verse 2. Verse 3, he's dealing with wise behavior. Okay, this is what we typically consider wisdom to mean. Okay, wise. You know, he's a wise old man because he's got years of learning and experience under his belt, and he's able to take those things and apply them to his life, and he's smart. He makes good decisions because of what he's learned. That's the kind of wisdom we're dealing with in verse 2. So we want to, this book is to receive instruction of wisdom, okay, that wisdom of knowledge, of experience, of dealing with life in the right way. Then also justice. Justice deals with conforming to God's law. Again, if we read the Bible, we'll know God's law. It's one of those things you can't just read it one time and you know it, okay? It's not that simple. It's very delicate, it's very intricate, it's very large. But we need to learn God's law, okay? And so part of this book is teaching us God's law. So we need to receive the instruction of justice as well. Then judgment. Judgment deals specifically with like a judge's ruling, if you will. So this deals with the right way to live life, okay? Doing things that are good and right according to justice, or the way that things are done. And that would be a judge. Of course, he stands up between two parties and he decides who's right and who's wrong, right? And whatever the judge says is the way that both parties have to abide, or they have to live, right? So that's what he's dealing with here. So we're going to receive the instruction of judgment also. And then equity, real simple. Live life fair, okay? Don't mistreat some people. Don't take advantage of other people. We need to be fair and equitable among everyone, okay? If we'll treat each other with respect and honor, and we'll treat everybody fairly, equally, God's going to take care of us and protect us. But also other people around us are going to treat us and know that we are fair, and they'll treat us well as well. Now, verse 4, to give subtlety to the simple. The simple is can also be naive, someone who doesn't quite understand how the world works. So you take into consideration a 3-year-old kid, little bitty toddler, okay? They don't understand that cars drive too fast down the street, so they just kind of wander off in the street. They don't really think anything about it. We need to take extra special care of those little guys so they don't wander off into things that they don't understand or know. We send our kids off to wherever they go, whether it's to school or to out in the world, wherever it may be. We need to begin to teach them and to show them people are going to take advantage of you. When you're at the gas station, there's a guy out there saying, "Hey, I need some spare change so I can buy a sandwich to eat." Okay, we need to teach him. He didn't really want a sandwich. He wants alcohol. He wants drugs. He wants whatever. Okay, he might be hungry, but probably not. He's probably looking for something to make him happy. Okay, so those are simple things that we have to teach our children. We have to teach people. God's word is to teach us those things that we're not familiar with out in the world, of what's good and what's right and what's wrong. But simple. to give subtlety to the simple. We want to be able to go out in the world aware of what's going on, aware of the world's ways and aware of God's ways. And when we go out, that we're not taken advantage of, we're not abused, we're not deceived and tricked. Okay. So we give to give subtlety to the simple. Also, it says to the young man, knowledge and discretion. So again, this book is written to give knowledge and discretion to the young man. Knowledge, fill them full of good things, things that they know, how the world operates. And this is right along with wisdom, okay? That wisdom in verse 2, the things of the world, how things work, how things function. So we want to know how things work, and discretion is going to be knowing what's the right time to do something, when's the wrong time to do something, okay? For example, the guys who run into a Quick Trip that says, give me some change, I'm hungry, I want to eat a sandwich or something. If you want to help them out, go buy them a sandwich, okay? Here, fill your belly. That'll take care of what he's asking for, maybe not what he wants, but that might fill his belly, okay? Discretion is not giving him money so he can go buy alcohol or drugs, but rather give him a sandwich to fill his belly, okay? A little bit of discretion there. And so knowledge, knowing what he's really after, knowing what his true desires are, and what we think or perceive that he really needs, there's a difference there, okay? So we need to have a little bit of discretion and knowledge about the world. Verse 5 tells us, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. We want to be wise, don't we? We don't want to be stupid. We don't want to be considered simple. We want to be able to hear and increase learning. So, again, if we'll read this book, specifically the Proverbs, there's lots of little tidbits in here that we can take and we can learn from and we can apply to our lives, and that will help us and teach us. Verse 6 says, to understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. Dark sayings is really just like riddles, okay? A lot of pearls of wisdom you might have heard almost sound like a riddle sometimes. They're hard to understand. And so he says in verse 6 to understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. A lot of these things you have to sit there and think about and meditate on, sometimes for hours. And sometimes you still won't get it. So you ask God, help me understand this. Help me make sense of this. Help me to apply it to my life. And He'll open up our eyes and we'll see it. But it might take days, hours, it might take years. One of these days you're going to read through this. If you're reading through it every month, you're reading through the whole book. One of these days you're going to say, that's what that means. I've never considered it that way. And God's going to open up our eyes and we're going to see something new. But again, it takes meditation. It takes time to think about these things. They don't just suddenly appear. It's not very basic, very simple things. These are the complicated things of life in this book. And it's good for us to be able to read and to discover those things in our life. So we're more prepared to go out in this world and to survive. Anybody can go out in the world, but not all of us are going to survive. So simple, the little 3-year-old that wanders off in the street, he's going to get hit by a car one of these days if he's not protected. Okay? We need to take care of the little ones. We need to teach the little ones. We need to teach them when they're young how to live in this world. Part of what this book is about is to teach us how to live in this world and to be aware of what's going on around us. Know that Satan is out there looking to devour us, looking to stop us, and he's trying to take advantage of all that he can. And he's got his crowd out there that wants to take advantage of us, okay? So, the next section I want to read in a couple of chunks, but this is all really one section, okay? So, the first chunk is verse 7 through 10. He says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. The fear of the Lord that he's talking about here in verse 7 is the fear or the reverence of God. Okay? We need to recognize, first of all, who God is. He is the creator of the whole world. he is the one that controls all these things. Now, we talked about this morning, the 400 years of silence that we dealt with. We don't see God in there anywhere, okay? There's no scripture about that. I also dealt with Esther. Even though God's name is not specifically mentioned there, we see that there was prayer and fasting, but that's about as close to God as we get in the book of Esther. However, we can see through man's devices and his plans, we can see how God used those to work his own plan. He not only worked in God's timing, but perfectly, just the way God had intended, even though we see that the bad guy in that book is sitting there devising and planning and trying to find a way to destroy all the Jews. God used that not only to destroy him, but to elevate the Jews to a higher place. Okay? So we can see God's working. In that 400 years of silence, we can see how God worked to create a better world to more effectively distribute the gospel of Christ. So there's a lot of good there. We see here the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Recognizing who God is and having reverence and awe that he is in work in our daily lives. Even though we don't necessarily see him or hear him, we need to recognize he's there. And he's working to our good and our benefit. As long as we're following him, we're serving him, we're doing those things that he would like us to do and have us to do. And if we're doing stupid stuff, okay, just downright retarded things, we're going to pay the price for that. Okay, God's not going to protect us if we're out there doing stupid things. If we're serving him and we're doing the best we can to better be a Christian, he's going to take care of us. And he's going to use the things that happen in our life for our good, not for our harm. And he'll take care of us and protect us. Okay? So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. We need to recognize who God is and fear him. Recognize who he is. And that's the beginning of knowledge. And now the contrast here is, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Anybody know a fool? I know a few. They do stupid stuff. They say stupid things. They live life just as careless as can be. We don't want to be a fool. We don't want to be like that. We want to do the best we can to serve God and live in his instruction. He says in verse 8, my son, hear the instruction of thy father and forsake not the law of thy mother. This gives us an example of this knowledge begins at home. Father and mother. Okay? Very simple. Our parents teach us how to live life. Okay? They're the ones that keep the 3-year-old from running out in the street. They teach them. Cars drive down this road. They drive too fast down this road. They don't watch for little children. Okay? We teach our children those things so that they don't go out there in the road and get killed. Okay? We teach our kids all these things. Wisdom begins at home. Instruction begins at home. Now our children are going to have to learn on their own. We teach them how to live life. We do the best we can. We instruct them. We give them little tidbits of instruction all throughout their life. But it's on them really to really build upon that. And Proverbs is a good place to go. Again, I encourage you to read the Proverbs daily because there's so much in here that's good for us to learn, to apply to our lives, and to help us to survive. Verse 9, we see one of the benefits here. It says, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head and chains about thy neck. The wisdom, the instruction that we gain, the knowledge that we learn, that's going to be like a crown on our head, like a necklace or a jewel on our neck. That's going to be something that people are going to see and recognize. People don't necessarily know that we're good at our job. They don't necessarily know that we're nice to people. But they're going to recognize when we have personal interaction with people, they're going to recognize we're different. Especially if we're Christians, they're going to recognize that we're different from the rest of the world. They're going to recognize that we're good. And if we are applying these principles and rules to our lives, and we're effective at using them in our life, they're going to look at us and they're going to say, that's someone I want to be friends with, or that's someone I want to work with, or that's someone I want to deal with because I know they're going to treat me fair, they're going to treat me right, they're not going to take advantage of me. That's the kind of people that we want to be. We don't want to take advantage of anybody. And those things are going to be obvious in our lives. Even though we don't really wear a crown on our head or a necklace around our neck that says, I'm good, I'm fair, I treat people right. But when people interact with us, they know that. They readily recognize that we're not cheaters, we're not liars, we're not deceivers. And they'll give us the benefit for that. The other side of that, of course, deceivers are going to recognize that as well. They're going to try to take advantage of us. So we got to be aware We have to be cautious because people are going to recognize that we are benevolent, we are good, we are trying to be fair, and bad people will take advantage of us. So we need to be ready for that as well. Now we see an example. Okay, here's our example, verses 10 through 14. He says, "My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as a grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse." Here's the example is some thugs come up to you and they say, hey, and they may not be thugs as you recognize them, but people you know. In school, for example, when I was in high school, there were people who were just, they weren't good people, okay? We'll be nice. And they said, hey, let's go do this. Let's play a joke, or let's play this or that or whatever. And to them it was a game, okay? But what they want to do is lie, cheat, and steal to make themselves feel better, to put money or property in their pockets, to do whatever they wanted. They were not good people, okay? We have to be careful because these people are going to approach us as they're our friends, as they're our acquaintances, people we know, and they're going to try to entice us or encourage us to do something. And if it's like right on the line of legality, or if it's obviously illegal, walk away from it. If it's technically legal, but yeah, walk away from it. I don't need that stuff, okay? But here's what he says in verse 10. If sinners entice thee, consent thou not. In other words, say no. Just say, no thank you. I'm not interested in that. Stay away from them, okay? And then he goes on and he gives details. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, okay? We're going to go get these folks, okay? Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. There's a guy who's got some money, we're going to go take it from him. Or here's someone who's done something, we're going to get them for it. Because it's fun, whatever. Verse 13, here's the reward. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. In other words, we're going to get rich off this. We're going to put some good in our pocket. Some money, gold, silver, whatever it may be. We're going to go get their stuff, or we're going to take it for ourselves. Or liberate it from them. All right? It's bad people. Stay away from them. Verse 15, he tells us, My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. What he's telling them is, some people call this karma. What goes around comes around. If you do bad, it's going to come back on you. Call it what you want to. This is the justice of God. God says those people, they lay in wait for innocence. They want to take something that's not theirs. They're going to get it coming back to them. They're going to get their just rewards. Their life may be cut short. But even if they live a nice long life, God's going to judge them in the end. We know that. Okay? He says, stay away from them. Don't go in their paths. Verse 15, walk not in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. Don't go down that same path because you're going to get caught up with them. Sometimes even the knowledge of what they're doing is enough to get you caught and entrapped and punished for what they did. It's better just to completely cut them off and stay away from them. So again, we have an example there of what can happen, the kind of people that we'll come in contact with. And they're not necessarily thugs. They're going to come find you as a nice man. It's going to be people we come in contact with daily. They're going to say, hey, this guy's good at what he does. Let's use him. We can get him to help us, and it starts that way. We just need to cut them off and say, no, we're not going to partake in that. Verse 20. Let's see. Run down a little bit here. He says, wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones? We love simplicity, and scorners delight in their scorning. And fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Here we see the benefit of wisdom. It's given to us here. This is wisdom personified as someone who's out in the streets calling, okay? Wisdom cries without. She utters her voice in the streets. This is a call of God out to every one of us. The little pieces of wisdom are out there. All we have to do is go pick them up, okay? They're laying out there. Just go grab them. But it doesn't do any good if you take them and put them in your pocket and never use them, okay? You've got to apply them to your life, practice them, and use them. Kind of like the math I mentioned earlier. If you just keep pulling out your calculator, you're going to lose some basic math skills. If you learn little bits of wisdom, you read through this Proverbs every month and you never apply it to your life, if you just read it as words on a page and go on about your day, it doesn't do you any good. You got to spend time thinking about it, dwelling on it, meditating on it, and applying it to your life. So as you go throughout your day, you think, that's what that means, and you say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to partake in those things because that goes against God's law, against God's wisdom, against God's direction. But wisdom is out there crying for us to come pick her up. Verse 21, she cries in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she utters her words. Wisdom, we see opportunities for wisdom crying out to us all the time. We just have to look for those things and recognize there's an opportunity here to do what's right, and there's an opportunity to do what's wrong. There's an opportunity to be smart, and an opportunity to be stupid. You take that opportunity to be smart, not to be stupid, every time, and recognize that it's there. But verse 22, again, the word simple here means naive, okay? We don't want to be naive. We don't want to be unlearned in the world's ways. But it says, how long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Fools, sure enough, hate knowledge. They say, I don't need this stuff. I don't need wisdom. I don't need the Bible. I don't need whatever. And they openly reject the things of God. That's not the kind of people we want. They're going to be fools. They're going to pay their price. Okay? They're going to have shorter lives. They're going to have more harsh lives. We want to be wisdom. We want to have wisdom and be wise. Verse 23 again, he says, turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Wisdom is out there calling for us, encouraging us to know wisdom, to know the ways of God, and to apply those to our life. If we'll just do those things, we'll have a much better life, a much more effective life. God will bless us, and we'll be much happier. Okay, be much better off. However, we see the foolish here portrayed in the following verses. Verse 24, because I've called out and you refused, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regards. But you have set at naught all my counsel, and with none of my reproof. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes. When your fear comes as desolation, and your destruction comes as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish comes upon you. Verse 28, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel, they despised all of my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkens unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So we see here the contrast. Those who reject wisdom, those who turn those things away, the godly things away, we see that they're going to be rejected. Wisdom is wisdom, okay? But it's not just a simple thing that we either have or we don't have. Again, it's something we need to learn, we need to read, we need to study, we need to meditate on, and we need to apply it to our lives. If we don't do all those things, it's worthless to us, okay? And so here's a good example given to us. Verse 24, because I've called and refused. Wisdom now. That is the way of the world, basically, the way God had intended for the world to function and operate. Because you refuse wisdom and you've been stupid, wisdom now works against you, okay? And he says, I've stretched out my hand and no man regarded, in verse 24. You've said it not my counsel, and with none of my reproof. Verse 26, I'll laugh at your calamity. Your calamity is the bad things that happen to you. People say, I always just have bad luck. You know, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck. That's someone who has been a fool all their life. The way of the world is coming down upon them because they keep doing stupid things, and it's coming back to be their problem now. He says in verse 26, I'll laugh at your calamity, I'll mock when your fear comes. When your fear comes as desolation, your destruction comes as a whirlwind. When distress and anguish come upon you. All these things are things we don't want. Distress, anguish, destruction, desolation, fear. These are the things that we don't get when we, or these are things we do get whenever we reject wisdom. When we don't apply those things to our life. In verse 28, this is kind of important as well. Then shall they call upon me. You know, someone who says, I don't really need that little nugget of wisdom right now. I'll use it one of these days when I need it. Not going to be there. If you don't learn how to apply the things in your life now, when you have the opportunity, they're not going to be any good to you later. It'd be like saying, I'm not an electrician. I don't really want to be an electrician. I don't really need those things. If I ever need to do electricity, then I'll learn it. Great, I need to wire my house. So you pull out the electric book, you start reading through it. Okay, I'm going to read this real quick and I'm going to wire my house. And then your house burns down because of electrical problems, whatever. You don't just learn things when you need them. You have to learn those things early and apply them to your life throughout. It takes time to develop these things and to use them and practice to make them worthwhile and beneficial. So verse 28, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Wisdom is something that if you reject, there's a period of time you're going to reject it and then it's gone. You're not ever going to get it. And some people are stupid. Some people are simple-minded and they're never going to get it. And we don't want to be that kind of a person. But let's jump all the way down to 31. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. So, if you consider back to those fools that we talked about from verses 10 through 14, let's lurk privately. Let's wait. Let's take innocent blood. Let's take their stuff, their possessions, and we'll keep them for ourselves. We'll be rich with their spoil. Those prosperous things shall destroy them. Okay, one of these days they're going to get caught, and because they have little trinkets of their sin. That's going to be the proof that's going to put them in prison for the rest of their lives, or send them to the electric chair, right? Who says we go back to public meetings? Okay. That's something that's going to be their own destruction. Okay, their foolishness will be their own destruction. But verse 33 ends us off on a positive note. He says, "But whoso hearkens unto me," that's wisdom, "shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil." We're going to have a much better life. We're going to be able to live more prosperously, and we're not going to be concerned with the petty things of the world. We live in a drug-infested community, unfortunately. I honestly never see it, ever. I go to Foyle, Veneta, I go to Chelsea, I go to these places where I hear there's drugs really bad, but I've never seen it. Fortunately, I'm with it. But I don't run with those crowds. I don't run with those people. I sometimes have to deal with the effects of those things, but I've personally never seen that stuff. And it's because I'm careful, and I walk in wisdom. I walk in those wise ways of God. And because I apply these things to my life, God takes care of me and prevents me from having to deal with those things, and seeing those things that would otherwise cause me harm, despair, fear, problems in my life. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 1. But he lays out chapter 1 as a good description of why this book was written, what wisdom is, how we can apply it to our lives, and why we should apply it to our lives. And so because of that, again, I went through this this week because it's the new year, the new month. But I encourage all of you, if you're not reading Proverbs daily, take the time. And it's not just spend 5 minutes reading through the chapter. Sometimes it takes me an hour to get through a chapter because I'm spending time. Of course, my mind wanders all the time. Okay? All kinds of things, but it takes time to focus. What is this? What does this mean? What's he talking about here? And you've got to actually pull out your Bible dictionary and look up what some of these words mean, because very simply, in verse 2 and 3, the word wisdom is used in both of those verses, but they're two totally different words. They mean different things. And if you just read these, a light reading, you're not going to get the full meaning of it. You've got to go in and do a little bit of study, a little bit of recognition, but take the time to meditate on it and ask God, share this with me. Help me to understand this. Make this make sense to me, and help me to apply it to my life. As you go through the day, you'll see opportunities to apply these things to your life, and God will help us to understand these better as we go through. And the more you read it, the better off you're going to understand, and the more you're going to make sense of it. So, I encourage you, stay true to God's Word, read it on a regular basis, stay in His Word, and apply those things to your life. If you don't apply them to your life, if you don't make sense of it, it doesn't do any good. You might as well not read it. So, I'm all done. And sorry I was on short notice. I didn't. If I'd known I was going to speak to you today, I probably would have worn a nicer shirt, used nicer shoes. But I appreciate y'all coming today and listening to what I had to say. But pray for him. He is sick. I'm sure nothing that a little bit of bedtime will take care of. But pray that God will heal his body, bring him back to normal being. All right. Let's say a prayer and we'll run away. All right. Lord, I thank you for the time you've given us to look at your word and consider it. I pray that you'll help us to stay true to you and your word. Read it every day and understand it. Lord, I pray that you'll speak to us on a daily basis to help us to understand. Even though you don't speak to us with new words, Lord, new prophets and things, Lord, you gave us your spirit to help us to learn and to follow you every day. Lord, I know you can speak to us every day. I pray that you will lead us, guide us, and direct us. Lord, I pray for my dad as he's feeling ill, that you'll restore him back to health, take care of him, and I pray that you bring us back together this evening, ready to learn some more. In Jesus' name, amen.